the 13th letter of what we call the alphabet. First thing you have to realize, we all have to realize, is that there is no such thing as Greek script. The Greek script was an African script adapted by the Greeks in order to develop their linguistical patterns, their grammar, and their syntax. The evidence of it is the Rosetta Stone that has writings on 3 different levels. The top one is hieroglyphics. The next one is the hieratic, which is a scriptic form of the Medu-Neter pictographs. And the bottom one is the third one that is called today the Greek. That's not Greek. That's African. It's another form of an African language that came from the Medu-Neter or the hieroglyphs, or the hieratic, which was the more scriptic form of writing. The third one was another form of African writing that the Greeks adapted that became classical Greek. Classical Greek became Middle Greek, and Middle Greek became Modern Greek, just like Latin today did the same exact thing. Classical Latin came from Greek, and then classical Latin became what's called Vulgar Latin, which was the language spoken by the people, called Vulgar, because everybody spoke it. And then Vulgar Latin turned into Spanish, French, Romanian, Portuguese. You see, the languages grew, but all of them came from Kush, Kemet, which we don't know. So when we're writing the African script, when we're writing English, we're writing an African script. If you want to see it, look at the letter A and look at the vulture in Medu-Neter. If you want to look at the letter M, look at the owl and how many M's in the script is in the picture. Look at how many A's are in the vulture, in the pictograph. So what they did is they just, to create the script, they said, I'm not going to draw an owl every time I'm going to say, have the sound of the letter M. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw part of the picture out and make a script. So instead of drawing an owl every time, they just took the horns of the owl, or the breastplate of the owl, or the legs that form the letter M. So the letter M, the 13th letter, is the only letter that we pronounce with our mouths fully closed. Every other letter of the alphabet, our mouth is open. A, B, C, D, E, F, N, L, S, Z, K, okay, all open. M, M. You have to close your mouth, and that creates a resonance or a vibration or a frequency. And that's why we have why we use it. That's why the word mama, all words with M derive a very important type of meditational concept, because it vibrates. We can do a class down the road on that.
Yes.
Because I do classes on that. But what I want to focus on is the owl. Why would the owl? Because the owl is not the most intelligent bird in the forest. In fact, it's not that intelligent at all. However, it's what it represents. And that is that being nocturnal, it lives in the dark. But it has the kind of eyesight that it can see in the dark. So our ancestors imagine what it would be like to be able to have that characteristic of being able to see in the dark, to be able to know the truth when it's in untruth, to be able to take the sense out of the nonsense, to take the best and leave the rest. That was one of the principles of the owl. It represented a genius. That's why in graduations, a lot of time you have the owl. Back in the day, we used to have, well, we still do, but they changed the icon. But we used to have an owl that represented wise potato chips. They were called wise potato chips. To graduate, normally you always had an owl. Even on TV, when they have, they use the owl for selling eyeglass so you can see. Okay, these are all the images that we have of the owl. The other thing that the owl can do is that it can turn its head totally around, so it could see all angles of things. And so our ancestors said, wow, not only can the owl see in the dark, but it can see all angles of of things. So therefore, the research and the work that it does, it can see things from many different perspectives and not get caught up in just one thing. That's why I said don't get caught up in one thing in your research. Go into a lot of different things, because that's what the owl does. It is the symbol of deep insight and intelligence to be able to see in the dark and to see all angles of things.
Yes, definitely. Answered it precisely. And just to give that reassurance, just the understanding of what the owl represents and how it correlates to that that step in the Kush Kemet scientific method. I believe it was step number 5 when you're getting the proof.
And it was in step number 6 also, when you draw your conclusion.
Yes, yes.
You see, the other thing for our family, Haruna said, is that, like, if you grow up in the Bronx, you don't see many owls unless you go to the Bronx Zoo, you know? And so there's no reason for us to be able to have the owl in our life. But now that we know what it represented at one point, now we can look at what we're experiencing today and be able to apply that principle or characteristic to our experiences. Because although we never may have seen an owl up in a tree in our backyard, we at least know what it meant and what it means and what it can